Hello and welcome back to Code Fancy for our fourth and final installment of the video tutorial on how to create the CSS slide menu. Today we're going to look at putting in some animation, maybe some iconography, and some other super fancy neat things. So I've got CodePen up. Again, we're going to be primarily looking at the CSS section here. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, give us some room to work with. In the last video, we went ahead and we enabled the toggle feature, so I can click on these and the bar will jump to underline my current selection. While that is super neat, we are going to add a category here. Let's comment this out. We're going to call this animation. So first what we're going to do is all the things that we want to animate, all those things that we created different states for, we're going to go ahead and list them out. So the first one is going to be the slide menu label, followed by, what was it, the bar, BG, and then bar. Cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a transition to these. So we're going to use transition, if I can spell that correctly. And we're going to transition all. Let's do 0.15 seconds is about where I want it. You can do a half a second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever amount of time you feel like you need there. And we want this to ease in and out, and we don't need a delay. So what we need to do, since this is some new fancy modern CSS, is we need to add 2 other lines here, and we need to add browser prefixes to these, or vendor prefixes. These are so that these particular browsers recognize this code, be it WebKit or Mozilla browsers. All right, so that should do the trick. So let's go ahead, and you'll notice we have this nice fade-in animation when we hover, and if I click on any of these, we have our slider is working. So that is wonderful. Cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back into our markup. You've probably noticed I've had this other tab open here at the top. This is a neat site called copypastecharacter.com. And essentially what they allow you to do is they have a whole library of symbols that you can copy and paste into your web projects as text. So you don't need any graphics, although you can use graphics. You can use SVG icons. You can use whatever you want to put icons into your project. I'm going to go jump into here right in front of our span tag. Let me bring down this piece a little bit. I'm going to introduce a figure. And what are we going to put in this figure? Let's put some, I guess these are glasses for home, and that'll populate right there. How about some tools? Tools are neat. I'm just going to copy and paste this whole section here. And let's give this a class of icon, because we're wonderful, responsible, creative people. I'm just going to go ahead and paste that figure into each of these. And then I'm going to jump back, and what did I want? I wanted the, I forgot. Let's put an apple in there. Apple's a neat company. What do we got here? Smiley faces. Smiley faces are super neat. Let's put one in here. And how about a pencil for the blog? That's appropriate. Get me putting my design hat on. Okay, so these, I mean, they work. If you're happy with these, cool. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to go back to my, I guess this is in my item. I'm going to create an icon definition here, since that is what we so cleverly called our figure. Now, since I'm using, these are called ASCII characters from copy-paste character. So I'm actually using these as a font or as text. So I can actually come in here and I can control the font size, let's say about 20 pixels, and make those a little bit bigger. I'm going to go 25. That's about where I want those. If you're using graphics, of course, you can use width and height if you've got some other mix-in libraries, which we'll talk about later. There's some other ways you can manipulate the size and look and feel of your icons. I'm going to do, I'm actually going to give it a width and height. Let's do about 50 pixels and a height of 50 pixels as well. I want to make sure the text is centered. Since I'm using text icons here, I want to make sure that I have a block. And of course, I need to center things up with my margin auto. Cool. So what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to add a border to my icon here. Let's do about 2 pixels. We'll make it solid. And I want to use that same black that I had before. And to make sure that these are centered, I'm going to add a line height of 50 pixels. And this is one of the benefits of using text-based iconography. Is you got a little bit more control over where things go. And I'm going to add a border radius 50%. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it a nice, neat circle. And everything looks fabulous. I'm going to dial these guys up to, let's do about 30 pixels. They're just not big enough. And let's make this 75 by 75. And that means we want our line height to be 75 as well. Cool. Maybe that's crazy. Let's, bigger. And that looks too crazy. Okay. Oh, back down. Okay, get back in your box. Okay, so these look nice. We have our fade in, fade out on hover. We've got our sliding bar. We've got these neat circles around these icons. And really the sky's the limit as far as what you want to do. You've got your animation in place. You've got your toggles. So now all that's really missing is the rest of your page and your content. You'll notice earlier on when we defined a max width, we didn't have a fixed width for this. So if you come in here and you start to squish this, this is where we start to get into looking at mobile and tablets and other smaller screens. We'll talk about responsive design in other videos. But making sure that you use max widths. We'll talk about ems later. And some other units of measurements, percents. Those are more on the responsive side of things, which help out a lot when it comes to designing for different screens. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Feel free to look at the CodePen site. The link will be down in the comments. Feel free to fork it. I'm going to try and get on GitHub for the next segment so we can start looking at pull requests and some other super fun, fancy things. Until next time, I am out of here.